Hello, good afternoon, morning or evening, depending on when you're watching. I'm very excited in this, my first ever venture onto YouTube, to make a major new announcement. The world has already been agog with reading my history of England and my history of Scotland, but my next major book isn't going to come out for 2 years. What can we do about that? Well, I'm going to tell you about the book, and I'm going to tell you about a series of YouTube videos which are going to whet your appetite for that book. What the book is, it's a book where I'm going to share the benefit of my less than excellent taste to tell everybody about the 100 bands or artists who I consider to be the best of all time. 100 bands, solo artists, and in one or two instances, writers. For each of these artists, who cover all the various genres of rock and pop music, I have compiled an hour playlist. So the book will be an appreciation of my 100 favourite artists, a 1 hour playlist which can be reached for free on Spotify, and a brief biography of each of these bands. The book won't be finished for 2 years. Perhaps in that 2 years, my 100 favourite artists of all time will change a bit. I'm fairly certain the Beatles and Bruce Springsteen will still be there somewhere, but who knows what new artists are going to come through in the next 2 years. So the list is provisional. But I'm confident that most of the 100 groups will be the same. Why is the book going to take 2 years? Well, it's going to take me a week, I reckon, to write about one group. So each group I'll spend a week on at home, devising my hour playlist and writing interesting facts about that group. And I thought it'd be exciting to reveal a group a week on YouTube. Who should you expect? Well, I'm not doing the 100 in order of merit. I'm doing it in alphabetical order. My first 8 groups of my provisional 100 will actually begin with A. I'll give you a few brief clues as to who to expect in the forthcoming 100 weeks. A lot of the groups come from the 60s, a lot of groups come from the 70s, a lot from the 80s. All in all, I've worked it out that 17 artists who I've chosen did their best work in the 60s. There's 31 who did their best work in the 70s. No surprise there, I think, because the 70s is when I was a teenager, and it's a well-known fact that most people, most of the music they love best is the music they discovered when they were teenagers. So that's more than likely why it's my favourite decade. 22 from the 80s, big surprise to me, because I've always considered the 80s to be a rubbish decade for music, too glossy, too plastic. But yeah, it's my second favourite decade, it turns out. 12 from the 90s, 9 from the noughties, and just 7 from the past decade. Is that because I'm becoming harder to please? Or am I too set in my ways? Or is it because the more recent groups haven't been around long enough to come up with an excellent playlist 1 hour long? They don't have any easy new groups. it is becoming more and more difficult to be original and do stuff that hasn't been done before. After all, it's not as though anybody's invented any new chords or new notes recently. What genres are my selections from? I've got reasonably varied taste, but I'm a rock man. I am a rock man mainly. I do like other types of music too. I even like folk, although I must admit, no folk groups do I like quite enough to make this list. Hard Luck, Bellowhead and Fairport Convention, who are or have been excellent groups. It is actually even difficult to decide what genres. I mean, it's not good when you just split music into genres. I mean, I agree with that old quote that there really should only be two genres of music: good music and bad music. Having said that, according to Wikipedia, source of all knowledge, 5 of my selections are folk punk, 8 are alt rock. I don't even know what alt rock is, but apparently I like it. 7 blues rock, 8 are undefinable classic bands, often bands from the 60s, Beatles, Rolling Stones, that kind of thing. Oh God, ooh, plot spoiler, I've told you 200 groups already. 2 country, another big surprise. I'm not a massive country fan, but there is some excellent country music around, including 1 current group. 7 glam rock. I grew up with glam rock. I tell everybody I'm sick of indie music. All indie groups sound the same. Yes, I do have 11 groups who are, roughly speaking, indie. 10 heavy metal or hard rock. 13 new wave of punk. I always consider that my favourite genre. 1978's my favourite year of music ever, and punk and new wave ruled the day then. 2 pop rock. Is it such a genre? But there wasn't yesterday. There is now. 6 progressive rock bands, including one who's a current band. 2 rappers. 3 pop, including the first group beginning with A on the list. See if you can guess who that might be. 1 modern R&B, and I hate R&B music, but if you're good at anything, you're worth listening to. In any genre of music, there's always somebody who is worth listening to, even R&B. 3 reggae or ska, 9 soul or funk. And 4, I've just given up on categorising. What category of music would you say Tom Waits is? God, another plot spoiler. So I confess it's rock orientated, but it's not just rock music. I'm going to do one of these broadcasts a week. There'll be a bonus podcast telling you how to use Spotify and in particular amend the playlists I've come up with for you in case you don't quite like the way I've left your favourite song off my Beatles playlist. And then we'll get into it, 1 a week for 100 weeks. So, next week, see if you can guess who it's going to be. First on my list, a classic pop band who probably, when I was growing up, I pretended I didn't like them. But once I matured a little bit, I've never matured all that much, but when I matured a little bit, I began to appreciate their genius. I grew up and got past my love of the sneering journalists in the NME and such like. So next week, a pop group beginning with A. See you then. Bye.